Welcome back to reality. April 6th, big building. So, Sean, you killed your dad. How do you feel? Sean, he was my dad. It can't have been easy learning the truth about his father's identity so unexpectedly. And too late to ever get to know him. You know how hard I tried to find him? Sean, I get it. He was the president. He had a lot more to think about than just me. But he was right there in front of me, right there on the set. So why? Why didn't he just say something? Why didn't he tell me who he was? I'm sorry, Sean. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, Mom. It's mine. If I hadn't broken my promise to you, that fire wouldn't have never happened, and he wouldn't have... I've ruined everything. Everything. It's all my fault. I even ruined your flowers. Sean, please, you mustn't blame yourself. Just try to be here with me. Just for a little while. The bond between parent and child, as symbolized by the lion lily. I'm no expert, but it's native to Zhangfa, so I know that much at least. Sadly, we don't have the luxury of dwelling on such things just now. I know it might seem insensitive, Agent Lang, but sentimentality won't help us here. We need to focus on what we can do about the case before us. You're right. I believe we learned all we need to know about what happened back then for now. How did it all line up with your father's theories about the case? I wouldn't know. He took those to the grave with him. He never shared his thoughts with anybody. There's no way of knowing what he figured out. What about your own thoughts? Are you feeling any more positive in light of what we learned from Kay's reconstruction? Are we any closer to learning what really happened 12 years ago? You know, I think we might be. Our father's footsteps are starting to become clear. Now all we need to do is follow them. All the way to the truth. The real story of the SS-5. The president went to the orphanage that night, that much we know for sure. The Tartarus toy proves it. He must have gone there to meet with Amelie Fen. Except he was kidnapped, and Aldan happened to see it. If Aldan hadn't been there, there wouldn't have been a murder, just a kidnapping. Instead, they had to move his body to the planters and stage that photo to throw everybody off the scent. So that's our current theory, is it? But there's something I still don't understand. There is? This. Why risk staging the picture? They wouldn't have had to force the president to play along. What if he hadn't? It's a good question. And we may be closer to discovering the answer than we think. We'll just have to get there one deduction at a time. Yeah, I guess we will. Alright, deduce away. The president went to the orphanage that night, that much we know. Yep. Tyrannosaurus proves it. Yep. Aldan happened to see it. If Aldan hadn't been there, there wouldn't have been a murder, just a kidnapping. Well, this part we don't know because we know that there's that blood that wasn't his. So, do I have that as an evidence thing? I do.
Objection!
You're saying there would have been no murder if Mr. Aldan hadn't witnessed the kidnapping? But is that really the case? Why wouldn't it be? Their main aim was to abduct the president, right? So if there hadn't been a witness present, they wouldn't have needed to murder anybody. And yet it remains possible that Mr. Aldan wasn't the only person killed that night. There was a large pool of blood between the planters, but Mr. Aldan was murdered over by the snowman. It can't have belonged to him. What if all that blood by the planters belonged to someone else? Come on, Mr. Prosecutor. You realize what you're saying, don't you? I do. It's hard to believe, I'll be the first to admit it, but it's what the evidence suggests. Not just one person was killed here 12 years ago, but two. You're saying they covered up a whole separate murder. But whose? Who else was killed that night? Whoever covered up this other homicide did so very skillfully indeed. They even seems to have been able to avoid it being mentioned in the files. But they didn't quite get rid of everything. We have a piece of evidence from 12 years... We do? Clearly shows that something else happened that night. There's only one person in that picture. Oh wait, hold on, there's blood in that picture already. Behind the doll, like the doll's kind of covering up blood.
Take that!
Excelsior's winner tried to shroud the existence of the other murderer in darkness, but there was one piece of evidence he wasn't able to suppress, thanks to the efforts of your father, Agent Lang. My father? Cast your mind back, if you will. Something else was hidden along with the other evidence from the crime scene. The existence of the child who set the fire in front of the orphanage. But why would Chairman Winter wish to erase him from the record? Because he saw something he should not have, that's why. He did, what was it? It's right here in this picture. The picture my father kept. I think we can all agree that's the president on the right-hand side, and that's the Tyrannosaurus toy in his hand. But who's that standing across from him? Oh, so we're not pointing out the blood that's behind him? Yeah, it looks like dude with dog, this guy. His whereabouts are currently unknown. Oh, that's right, he fucking broke out. I forgot about that.
Take that!
Eastern robes and a black dog. That can only be Camus. Nani? The creepy assassin guy. And what would a hired killer be doing in the presence of a president? I can only think of one thing. That's right, it wasn't a kidnapping that occurred here 12 years ago. It was an assassination. Ayah! The Warden LaGuardia and Chairman Winter were, yes, I think they were complicit, more than complicit in fact. One provided the venue for the killing, and the other suppressed the testimony of the child who witnessed it. Mr. Aldal was murdered because what he witnessed was actually an assassination, and not the kidnapping he thought it was an idiot. You think I'm an idiot? How could the president have died 12 years ago? We only found his body this morning. He was alive and well until just recently. Yeah, we even met him. Indeed. So we have a president killed 12 years ago and a president killed in the last 48 hours. 2 presidents, in other words. Right, which is completely impossible. Or is it? They did mention that he has a bunch of bodyguards. Like, not bodyguards, but like, doubles. Which is why I wasn't even sure if this guy was the actual president. In fact, that would explain a lot. But regardless of what happened, I still respected him. Zhang might not be a big country, but he held that place together. The president Agent Lang spoke of was a noble and capable leader. The President Mass has well and truly slipped. Entirely unlikely the man we met. It really did seem as if they were 2 completely different people. But how could one country have 2 presidents? What could explain a situation like that? This is how it was possible for there to be 2 presidents. Body double. One of the 2 was a body double. Tell me that doesn't make sense. A body double? President Wang was a man of great power and influence in Zhangfa, a figure on the world stage. There must have been countless attempts on his life over the years, such as the one at Gourd Lake only a few days ago. It's true, there were more than a few assassination attempts, but that doesn't mean I'm about to accept that there was more than one president, not without proof. Do we have proof? President Zhang was kidnapped. He was kidnapped, but the presence until midnight confirmed. Yeah, so how was he kidnapped if he was in the embassy?
Take that!
I don't think he's noticed the contradiction staring right in the face. Or is he just unable to accept it? What's the matter, Mr. Prosecutor? You're pretty quiet all of a sudden. In Amelie Fenn's recording, she asked the president to be at the orphanage at midnight. But it shouldn't have been possible for him to be there at the time. Huh? How come? Because he was supposedly still at the embassy. With your father, Agent Lang. So he had noticed. The only way he could have been in two places at once is if there were two of them. So the real president, that was the one who died 12 years ago? I think it might have been. But why? And who? Who would have hired Canis to murder the president? In order to figure that out, we'll need to look again at the piece of evidence we recently discovered was a fake. The fake evidence, what was it again? The photograph was staged. Yeah, this one.
Take that!
The picture taken with Mr. Aldown's camera was staged sometime after his murder. Mr. Aldown was murdered because he witnessed the president's assassination. In other words, the photograph too must have been taken after the real president's death. So who is the president in the staged photograph? The body double. Nothing else makes sense. I believe the president's double had him killed so that he could take his place permanently. And Excelsius Winter and Fifi LaGuardia helped him do it. Wait, you don't even have a body to support your theory. Are you telling me it magically disappeared? No, in fact we know exactly where it wound up. Is that what they were digging at?
Take that!
Chairman Winter dug something up last night. Something he couldn't trust anybody else to retrieve. We thought it might have been ransom money, but it was actually something even more important. Wait, you mean... That's right. The real president's body. I think it's highly likely anyway. Nani. The body may have decomposed in the intervening years, but the bones would surely have remained. Mr. Powers informed us that construction is due to start here sometime soon. Everything had to be wrapped up before then. The shooting of the movie, and the recovery of the president's remains. Yeah, I guess once they started digging the place up, they would have found them pretty quick. Agent Lang, we need to have the so-called monster footprints analyzed again. Yeah, I guess we do. If there was a body under one of them, there should be trace evidence to confirm it. Hey, get me somebody from forensics. Sir, presenting the findings of our analysis, sir. Traces of human remains were found in the dirt along with other signs of a body being buried. So it really was him. Bones were also recovered from the home of Excelsius Winter. The physique looks to be about right, and dental and mental records are a match. It's him, no doubt about it. So as suspected, the real President Wang was killed 12 years ago, and the SS-5 kidnapping was in fact a homicide. Wow. So it really was a murder, huh? This case has taken so many twists and turns, I'm starting to lose track. Yes, perhaps we should summarize our findings just to confirm that we understand everything correctly. Good idea. Let's go everything from the point where the president arrived at the orphanage. 12 years ago, the real President Wang visited the orphanage. His aim, to meet his infant son. The footprints we originally assumed to be those of Mr. Aldown seem likely to actually have been made by the president upon his arrival. But instead of being greeted by his child, he was met by the assassin, Canis. That's so sad. He was hoping to see his baby for the first time, only to... Indeed. But at least with Mr. Canis, we can be sure that the job was swiftly and efficiently completed. But then, after the assassination, another tragedy occurred. Mr. Aldown's murder. Yes, it seemed like he witnessed a key moment in the evening's proceedings. The moment where our culprits, the so-called kidnappers, took the president's body around to the side of the building. That was the sight that sealed his fate. We've now established that he was standing by the orphanage gate at the time, far enough away that he believed what he was seeing was the president's abduction. At which point... Oh, the body double who had come to meet up with his co-conspirators walked right up behind Mr. Alden, leading to our unfortunate eyewitness being murdered by the man who was plotting to replace the president. So was it the body double who moved Mr. Alden's body too? Yes, I think it probably was. But none of the footprints could have been his, could they? Actually, I think they could. In fact, we have a piece of evidence that proves how that particular trick was achieved. What shows how the body double managed to move the body without leaving any footprints. The shoes. Yeah, because these aren't actually his shoes.
Take that!
What if the president's double moved Mr. Alden's body like this? After killing Mr. Alden, all down, he could have carried him to the other side of the entrance. Given that his job was to look just like the president, he would have been wearing the same shoes, meaning that if he stepped exactly in the footprints left by the real president, of course, his would have been the same size and shape. It would have looked like a single set of footprints. So that's how it all went down. I'm so glad we finally figured it out. Wait, but there's still one thing I don't get. There is? What? Why did they need to pretend there was a kidnapping? Mr. Aldown had seen the president at the orphanage. They left a message on Miss Ringer's phone describing what he thought he saw. It would have been impossible for the conspirators to erase that message, so they had to make it look as if the events described in the message were true, by staging a kidnapping like the one he thought he saw. Exactly. I think the two people in this photograph are likely to be the body double and Fifi LaGuardia. She's the one in the trench coat. How can you be so sure of it? The two of them would have had to walk out beyond the orphanage gates to stage the photo. The body double could have put his feet in the real president's prints, as he did before. Oh, so the other set of footprints were hers. The ones we originally thought belonged to the killer, yes. They were about a size 9, too small for Chairman Winter, in other words. Which means the kidnapper must have been played by Warden LaGuardia, and that explains how a so-called kidnapping was actually a presidential assassination. It does, which means my father must have noticed. There's no way he wouldn't have suspected a murder, especially not with the kid's picture as proof. But the picture was never officially put into evidence, correct? No, he appears to have kept hold of it after taking the witness statement of the child who drew it. Yeah, because he knew. He knew President Wang was dead. And he knew what would have happened if the news ever got out. Zhang Fa would have plunged into chaos, no doubt. So he kept it a secret, and that secret died with him. Even though it meant taking the blame for the kidnapping and our family name being ruined. So your father knew the truth about what happened 12 years ago, but he chose to hide it. Well, it's finally coming to light, at least. Updated. Is it indeed intriguing? Huh? What? Who's there? Oh, I don't like that bell sound. Why are you still wearing your prison gear? Didn't you escape days ago? What the heck are you doing here? Where's the law? You think you can just show up in front of us like it ain't a problem? Forgive me, but I couldn't help overhearing the fascinating conversation you were having. The opportunity to gloat over your past crimes was just too good to miss, I expect. You killed President Wang. I did. But it's not something I'm inclined to gloat over. I was more interested in something else you mentioned, or someone else, should I say. Someone you're looking for, I suppose? Exactly. That's why I took a little sojourn from the penitentiary, to find a certain young pup. A young pup in a rather eye-catching red raincoat. Nani? Wait, you know who they were? In a manner of speaking? What did you call them again? A secret mastermind? It's your friend in the red raincoat, of course. Red raincoat? The prosecutor looks a little surprised, doesn't he? Helma, yes, he does. The young pup I mentioned, he saved my life, you know. 12 long years ago. As you have surmised, it was I who killed President Wang. But that means that I too became an inconvenience in need of removal. The imposter president, Winter, LaGuardia, all three were keen to guarantee my silence. And if I hadn't met my friend, the young pup, again, they might have even succeeded. I wonder what he's doing now. So it was the president's body double who hired you. I remember his words almost as if it were yesterday. You know how many times I've nearly been killed? Not once, not twice, a bunch of times. Why do I have to take all the risks? Why am I the one they always put in danger? When I'm out there being him, people treat me like I was him. They worship me. So what's the difference? Who's to say I couldn't be just as good as him? I like that his prison number is boss. There was a difference, of course, even if he did look and sound exactly like him. Just because it walks and talks like a president, that doesn't make it a president, does it, boy? No. So he got his wish and became the boss, but couldn't quite fill his predecessor's shoes. Rook's not around, that means I'm number one. I wonder if you have what it takes to step into such capable shoes. You, of course I do, I'm the leader now, me! Seems the king and his knight were much the same. The president's double knew that his employer had a weakness, a young woman named Amelie. But in order to find her, he needed to enlist the help of locals. Locals such as Chairman Winter. Once Miss Fenn had been located, they simply needed to find the right time to lay their trap. The meeting she arranged so the president could meet his son. That would have been the perfect opportunity. Indeed, and with the head of the orphanage brought into the fold, their little conspiracy was complete. Warden LaGuardia. Now, quid pro quo, where might I find the pup? What makes you think the boy who helped you and our mysterious string puller are one and the same? He set a little fire that night, out there in the yard of the orphanage. Oh yeah, we saw that. It was some kind of prank, right? A prank? It was nothing of the sort, my dear. No, as I understand it, he had taken refuge in the igloo by the entrance. From there, he happened to see Winter and LaGuardia carrying away a dead body. He also overheard them hatching a certain sordid little plot. A plot to remove me, the only other person who knew what had really happened from the picture. Thankfully, he was kind enough to come and inform me. I was waiting inside the building, you see. He also happened to mention later on that he was wearing his favorite red raincoat. In any case, he escorted me from the premises. And being a very considerate boy, thought to erase both our footprints from the scene of the crime. It seems he had a little kerosene set aside the igloo just for such an occasion. So he spread it liberally about the place and set himself a little fire. No way, so that's what the fire was for. It must have been ever so beautiful. Winter and LaGuardia were positively enchanted. And while they were distracted by the show, he took the opportunity to usher me out of a side entrance. You never answered my question. You really think he's the one behind all this? I do indeed. Don't I, Helmut? Yes, yes I do. As you have surmised, given the convenience. Tell me more about your friend, please.
Hold it!
Again, so the two of you had met before. Yes, on a cold and lonely Christmas Eve 18 years back. Not long ago. But on that occasion, it was I who saved his life. It was snowing, more than it had in years, and cold enough that death by freezing was a real possibility. I had taken Helmut out for a little walk. He noticed something and bounded off through the snow. When I caught up to him, he was sniffing at a car. The doors had frozen shut. It took all the strength I had, but eventually I managed to open one. And inside I found two young boys, shivering and semi-conscious. One's also tied up. Two. Yes, and I had found them even an hour later. The poor wretches would never have made it. I took them both to a nearby orphanage. There is. number of people. You're certain there were 2 children in that car? It was a long time ago, but I remember it as clearly as if it were yesterday. There were 2 of them, no doubt about it. Why do you ask, Mr. Prosecutor? Is there some significance in that number? Okay, so it's not the fact that there's 2 kids. The make of the car, he didn't even specify such a date. This was on Christmas Eve 18 years ago? You're certain of that? I am. Holy smokes. We have something that shows why that date is so significant. We do. This is 12 years ago. $18 years ago. Oh shit, is the other kid, the son? The son that went missing. Or is it the son that's still alive? That was the same day on which a certain incident occurred, the murder of a well-known sculptor. No way. An incident in the aftermath of which 2 children went missing. Yeah, the 2 kids. The son of the victim, Artie Frost, and the son of the murderer, Carmelo Gusto. Yeah, now that you mention it, the little guys did go AWOL, huh? Intriguing. The son of a murderer and the son of his victim. I suppose that would make sense. It would. One of the boys was bound hand and foot, you see. That must have been part of Mr. Frost's plan to stop Mr. Gusto's son from getting to the competition. Indeed, because without his son to taste his creations, Mr. Gusto would have had no chance of winning. So that was what was behind it all. Sadly, neither of the boys were able to remember any such details. They weren't? No. When we met each other again on that night 12 years ago, the young pup explained it to me. It seems that they really were on the brink of death when I found them. And the shock of the experience caused them both to lose their memories. They weren't even able to remember their names. Wow, so they wouldn't have even known that they were Mr. Frost and Mr. Gusto's kids. If what he's telling us is the truth, that would seem likely, yes. Which means we still don't have enough to tell us who our mastermind might be. Mr. Canis, would you mind telling us what happened next? Hee by all means. The pup and I, we will get into next time. Bye-bye.